Hey guys, it's Deanna and welcome back to my channel. So for today's video, as you can see by the title, we are going to be talking about gender, we're going to be talking about sexual identity, we're going to be talking about what it means when you say you don't want to date someone who's trans or you don't want to be with someone who's trans, what hypermasculinity and hyperfemininity can do to a relationship with somebody. I'm also, of course, going to show you guys how I got this look today using the Natasha Denona bronze palette. I'm really happy with this look. We borrowed a foundation technique from Amrezy. And yeah, so if you guys are interested, then keep on watching. Oh my god, it's been so long. So let me kind of give you guys a little bit of like backstory as to like why I'm talking about this topic. So yesterday I was on Tinder, and I'm not really on Tinder to like date right now or to meet anybody seriously or to hook up or anything like that. Like I'm just on Tinder to just like kind of waste time, kind of mess around. I matched with this guy, right? A straight man, a straight white man. And like his pictures looked okay. Like he didn't have any red flags in his profile. Honestly, that's what I look for on Tinder. I mostly will look for red flags and reasons that I should not talk to you. And if I don't see any, then I'm like, okay, I have no reason not to talk to you, not talk to you. And so I started talking to this guy. He wanted me to call him on the phone, which I thought was kind of weird, but I was like, sure, like we can talk on the phone. Like I'm not a big texter anyway. And he had like mentioned his reason, because I asked him like, why are you on Tinder? And he was like, oh, well, you know, I don't know, I'm just kind of messing around too, not really looking for anything in particular, not really trying to hook up with anybody. But like I hate Tinder because there's so many gay people on Tinder. There's so many gay guys who want to go after straight men, and there's so many women with penises on Tinder. And of course by that he meant there's transgendered women on Tinder. And he was like, there's a lot of women who will, you know, trick you, and later on I find out that they're really a man. And I instantly, I was like, I'm gonna go. Like I stopped him, and I was like, yeah, well I tried correcting him. Hold on. I tried correcting him a little bit, and I was like, because he kept saying transsexuals, and I was like, that's not the correct term to use, that's a slur, say transgender. And he was like, oh, are you trans? And I was like, no, but that doesn't matter, like use the correct word for it. And he was like, sorry if I offended you. And I'm like, you didn't offend me, but like you never know who the fuck you're talking to, so just be like a polite human being. And then he kept saying like, well, I don't want to date women, or I don't want to talk to women with penises when I think that they're female and they're not. And I was like, you think that they're women and they're not that they're female. And he just like that, I knew when I said that, like I shouldn't have said that, because that would have just kind of flown over his head, to call them women, or to call us women instead of female. And then it kind of went sideways from there. I know there's gonna be some straight men watching this, straight men who have never encountered a transgendered person, or so they think they've never encountered a transgendered person, or they've never dated one. And I know y'all are probably like, well, what's the issue? You know, that's his preference. He doesn't want to date someone who's trans. Maybe he just doesn't want to be sexually active with someone who's trans. That's valid. I think that that's valid. I think that that's definitely something that gets excluded a lot from the discussion on heterosexual people, or rather I should say cisgendered people engaging in relationships with trans people. That's something that doesn't get talked a lot about, is like the actual sex aspect of it, because that's, you know, for some people that's like a deal breaker. That is a really big part of relationships for them. I'm taking my Too Faced Born This Way concealer in the color Cookie, in the shade Cookie, and I'm just cleaning up my brows, and I'm gonna prime my lids and get them ready for shadow too. So I know you guys are probably saying like, what's the issue there? There's not inherently an issue with that, but I do think that there's value in questioning why that's so important to you, you know? Why is it more important for your partner to have these set of genitals, you know, over having a personality and forming a genuine connection with this person? Why does it matter? Like what part of that is so vital to you? What is it taking away from you to be close with someone, even just as friends, to have a close friend that's transgender, what about that is like a deal breaker for you? You know what I'm saying? Like, because relationship wise, in that sense, I can kind of understand why you would be hesitant, or why I would say a heterosexual cisgendered man would be kind of hesitant to date a trans woman, especially with the type of society that we live in, like this patriarchal society that, you know, tells men that their masculinity, sorry, is like threatened by trans women and trans men. I think that those like underlying questions and those underlying issues should be explored, and I don't think that they're explored enough. But what that conversation kind of showed me is that I once used to be the type of girl who would lust after and specifically go after men who were very, very masculine. Very much so, kind of like, I wouldn't go after men who would take on like a father figure role, but I would go after men who would play that kind of protector and provider role. So a guy who had a job, who had a car, who you know, didn't rely on other people for things, didn't rely on his family. He was really into sports, you know, active, a really fit body, very much into fitness, very into cars, video games. I liked men like that because I thought like that is the ideal man. You know what I'm saying? Like, if I'm gonna partner with a man, I need to have a man, you know what I'm saying? I don't want a guy who's like, who deviates from that that little box that I had created, as, you know, for what masculinity was, or what society had kind of showed me through the media that masculinity was, what my parents had taught me masculinity was, what I had seen in my family, you know what I'm saying? So I definitely, for a really long time, since I began dating, I had pursued partnerships with men like that. And even women, I thought like if I wanted to be with a woman, I would have to be with a woman who was very butch and very masculine. I'm gonna try to refrain from saying the D word, the D word for like a lesbian, because I don't know if that word's a slur or not, but I personally just don't feel comfortable saying it. I don't know why. I feel like it's definitely not my place to say it because that's not me. But I felt like if I was to date a woman, it would have to be someone like that, you know, someone that reminded me of a man, because that's what I was comfortable in. And I thought that that's what I needed. I thought that I needed someone who was the opposite to my hyper femininity, because I'm a very, very feminine person in my mannerisms. I'm very feminine in the way I speak. I'm very feminine in my interests in life, my fashion sense, all of that, you know what I'm saying? My hobbies, I take on, I'm a very, very stereotypically feminine woman, and I'm okay with that. I'm like super proud of that actually, because that's something that people my entire life have always tried to beat out of me, and they've tried to tell me that it's not good to be like that. And I'm definitely, of course, now seeing that it is okay to be like that, and it is a good thing to live your truth and to, you know, just actually just do whatever the hell you want, right? But that interaction with that guy really, really had me thinking like, okay, you don't want to date someone, or you don't want to be involved with someone who's trans, right? You maybe like that, not having the genitals that you are attracted to or that you're used to having sex with, maybe that's something that's like really, really important to you, and that's not something you can look past. Okay, but what is it stopping you from being friends with someone like that, or even just communicating and corresponding and getting to know someone like that? What's stopping you there? If you're already attracted to the person, because the way he had explained it, it was like he had already matched with someone, was attracted to them, talking to them, and then like the sole fact that they were trans is what kind of like made him not want to engage with them anymore. So my question is for all the straight men and women, or just men and women out there, and non-binary people, what is it that's like stopping you from doing that, from engaging with trans people? What is it? Because I could tell you what I think it is. I think it's most likely your internalized transphobia, especially like as a straight man, probably telling you that these transgendered men and women are a threat to your gender identity and they're a threat to your sexuality. I know that there's a lot of black women out there, God, especially on freaking Twitter and Facebook, a lot of black women who hold that sentiment. They don't view trans women as being real women. They view them as being men in a dress, men pretending to be a woman for a day. And so when issues come up, like when women's rights issues come up, discussing things like abortion rights, right? Abortion rights have been stripped from a lot of people in a lot of southern states. I think Alabama was one of them, and I think Tennessee was another, where like you cannot get an abortion in those states currently. And of course, I think they had like justified it because of the coronavirus was going on, saying like it's like a health risk or whatever. I don't freaking know. But a lot of women were saying like, because people were using like gender neutral pronouns and terms to describe what was happening, saying like abortion rights are being taken away from people rather than saying from women, because women are not the only people who are affected by sexual reproductive laws. And a lot of women, a lot of cisgendered women were like super, I don't want to use the word offended, but they took it personally as a personal attack against their femininity. I'm actually going to use setting powder to set my lids before I go in with eyeshadow. So I'm going to take Laura Mercier. But yeah, a lot of women take it very, very personally, and they take it like it's a personal attack against their womanhood, and like it devalues their womanhood. So I'm using the Natasha Denona bronze palette today. I think I'm going to use the shade Sundown. All three of these look very, very similar in person. This one's obviously like a little more mustard, but I'm going to use this one. It's kind of orangey. I'm going to put that in my crease. I'm going to go in with suntan afterwards. I'm going to take a little bit of Deep Dive, maybe. And then I think I'm going to take Bliss and Alloy, these two on my lid, just so I don't have to like stop and explain what I'm doing. Ooh, come on, orange. Y'all, oh, come on, orange. So all of that is to say that I have a theory. I have not done much research before making this video. This is really just a video just kind of on my own personal feelings right now. I do have a theory that a lot of men actively avoid transgendered people because they think that if they are associated with transgendered people, the general consensus is going to be that they are now gay, or that they are now less of a man or less of a woman, you know, depending on the gender of that person. And that's not true. That's simply not true. And so from there, once I kind of made that, I mean, it didn't take me so long in real time to make that connection, but once I did make that connection and I kind of realized like, okay, this guy doesn't want to date trans women because he views it as, he doesn't view them as women, he views them as men still, and he doesn't want to date trans women because in his mind that it will make him gay because he doesn't view them as women, right? So once I made that connection, I'm kind of like, okay, number one, I don't like that. Number one, that's transphobic. And number two, I don't want to be with someone or even be friends with someone who is that insecure in their own sexuality and that insecure in their own personal identity that they can't even simply associate with transgendered people. I find that to be really, really weird, right? I find that to be really weird because that's like me saying that I would just never, I could never, ever, ever date or ever be friends with a man or a woman. If I were to say that, you'd be kind of like, well, why? You can't just place all men in one box. You can't just say all men are like this or all women are like this. You could say the same about trans people, you know what I'm saying? Being trans and being gay, there's such a misconception, man. People really think that like being trans and being gay is their whole identity or our whole identity, because I'm you know, a little part of this community, and it's not. Of course, gay people and trans people are gonna be very, it's something that they have to talk about. It's something that has to be a big part of their lives. Of course, they have to talk about it and they have to discuss it with people for the sake of transparency, but even that they don't have to do, you know what I'm saying? They don't owe us that. But other than that, like once you get past that, What makes them so different? Nothing. Literally nothing. They're just people. They're just freaking people. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you're able to hold a conversation with a trans woman the same way you would a cisgendered woman, and you're able to enjoy the company of a trans woman the same way you are a cisgendered woman, and you're just as attracted to them, then what's the issue? Like, I don't understand. Like, my brain is like short-circuiting. Like, what's the issue there? I don't want to have people in my life who are so fragile in their own masculinity or in their own sexuality. I personally want to be around people and surround myself with people who are very open-minded to concepts like that. I'm not saying that you have to just be open and down for anything, because I still understand, like, as human beings, we do have autonomy over our relationships, and we have the right and the privilege to decide who we do and don't want to give our time to, and who we do and don't want to partner. I think it's also important to examine why you have the preferences that you do, and what it's really saying when you say you don't want to date a trans person. If I were to say I don't want to date a white person, come on now, like, we've got some deep digging to do as to why that is. I don't think that there's any harm in questioning why, you know? I'm actually kind of happy with like how the eyes are looking like this. I don't know if I want to go any darker with that deep dive color. I'll have to see. Maybe I might go in with magma, sorry, which is like that red. I might go in with that shade. I have realized though, over the years, in my experience dating cisgendered heterosexual men, I don't like it. I don't like it. I don't really like to date men who are extremely masculine. I'm okay with a guy who's very masculine, is into sports, into cars. I'm okay with being with a partner who has different interests than me. Let's just kind of put it in layman's terms. I'm fine with that. I think that that's normal. I think that that's healthy to have different interests that are separate from your partner's. What I don't really like though is when men are too afraid of their masculinity being threatened, that they do not ever want to indulge in anything that's traditionally feminine or feminine adjacent. I find it very frustrating when I'm with a man and they are like vehemently against anything that reminds them that, you know, this is not what a man does. You know what I'm saying? This is not what a man drinks. This is not what a man eats. This is not what a man does. My dad used to say this a lot, where like he would say like, I'm not gonna eat that. I need meat. I'm a man. Men eat meat. What? Are we cavemen? Are we Neanderthals? What the hell? Like, that shit would kind of blow my mind. Do y'all know that there's men out there who don't eat fruit? And I'm not taking this out of my ass, because I see it, and I see people make these comments that like fruit is gay. It's not what men do. Men don't eat fruit for pleasure, for enjoyment. Men don't have smoothies. Men don't eat dessert. What? Like, come on, yo. And it's not women who place these weird standards on men. It's men who did it to themselves, let's be honest. But I don't think I could ever be with a man who like perpetuates that type of insecurity. I just wish that more cisgendered men and women would be open to just not even partnering, but even just communicating with and collaborating with and being friends with trans people, because I feel like they're actively not doing that and making a point in not doing that because they feel like it's a threat to their identity as men and women. But I think that it's also important for us to remember that we don't need to keep people in our lives who don't share the same beliefs as us in terms of being progressive and in terms of being liberal, because I noticed a lot of people with very conservative views, they're always like, well, can we still be friends even though we don't have the same views on this? Can we still be friends? And I find myself always wanting to say yes to them, because I know that it'll make me look bad if I say no, even if I don't want to. I'm taking that color Bliss. Do you see how pretty that is? It's like a duochrome pink with gold. Oh, it has a little green in it too. Can you guys? Oh, y'all cannot see. This shade is pretty. I'm gonna take a little bit of NYX glitter glue and put that on my eye and then go back in with that color because it's very sheer, as you can see. But I find myself always wanting to say yes to their advances at trying to be friends with me despite us having differing views on political and social topics. Just so that I'm not that crazy SJW that is very closed-minded when it comes to hearing the perspectives of someone who's conservative. And I find that like it's like a double-edged sword, because do I want to actually be friends with that person? No. Does it benefit me to hear their perspective and to understand their side? Yes, of course, it definitely does. I don't think that there's any harm in just hearing from the other side, but do I want that in a friend? Do I want someone to have close access to me who doesn't share my own beliefs, who's not a part of the same communities that I'm a part of? No, I don't think so. And I think that it's really, really important for us. You know, I know that like it's very easy on social media to say like, well, I'm not friends with any bigots. I'm not friends with any people who say slurs. I'm not friends with this and that. It's very easy to say that and to say I would never be friends with people like that. But sometimes it's hard to actually, God, this is mad pretty. It's hard to actually be that person to put your foot down and say like, no, I don't want to do this, or no, like it's hard to assert yourself, I guess is what I'm trying to say. It's hard to assert yourself if you're someone who's not very confrontational and kind of has a bit of a fear of being viewed as confrontational, or having, I guess what my real kind of conflict is that I get worried that that one person's interaction with me is going to change their whole opinion on the communities that I'm a part of, as a gay person and as a Black person and as a woman and as a, what other kind of labels can I put on myself? But just like as a member of all of those different communities that typically do have very opposing views from very conservative groups and conservative ideologies, I get worried sometimes, I'm not gonna lie, that their interaction with me is going to completely change their perspective on those groups for the negative. And sometimes I do feel like it's my responsibility make sure that I'm making sure that my point is getting across the way that I want it to with that person, and that like they're not gonna leave the conversation saying, see, this is why I don't fucking have any Black friends, this is why I don't even date Black women, this is why I don't even like bisexuals, or that like I try my hardest to make that not the outcome of the situation, right? Okay guys, so this morning I watched I'm gonna take a little break from my little rant. This morning I watched Amrezy. I watched one of her IGTV videos. First of all, y'all ain't tell me that Amrezy was from New York. Y'all did not tell me that Amra Olivic Reyes is from Brooklyn. That she's like from Brooklyn, you know, like she's a New Yorker. Y'all ain't tell me that. I was fucking shocked. I was really shocked. I had never, because I was on her Instagram. Like, I think I had just stumbled on her Instagram and I'm like, I've never heard this woman speak. Does this woman, like, is she a robot? Sometimes, like, is that, like, bad to say? Sometimes I look at Amrezy and I'm like, is she a robot? I've never heard this woman speak before. I've never heard this woman, like, what did she do? Where did she come from? Like, I didn't know her backstory. I went on her Instagram and I watched one of her IGTV videos where she's showing how she does her makeup. And she does like reverse foundation. So she does her highlighting and contouring underneath foundation. And I did that one time and I loved it. And I want to try it again. I want to try it with her method though, because she was pretty light with the foundation. How I did it previously was I kind of went ham on the contour. I did foundation over that and then I highlighted over that. What she did her actual highlighting and contouring first and then just kind of went in to blend with the foundation. So that's what I want to try to do today. I'm taking the Bite Beauty Changemaker foundation and I'm going to just use that on the other side of my sponge. And I'm going to just kind of try to, like, right down here I need coverage, but like I'm going to just try to blend out the areas without covering up too much of our contour and highlight. I'm going to take my Laura Mercier and I'm just going to start on the face actually. Oh my god, I forgot to add my blush. Here I am holding my blush palette. I forgot to add my cream blush. Why didn't y'all freaking tell me? Bro, I have 3 different cream blushes laid out right here and I didn't use one of them. Bro, I'ma still use them. I'ma still use it. I'ma still use it. So now what Amrezy did after she powdered her face was she just continued to press it into the skin. So I'm gonna try to do that with my brush. I'm gonna take my MAC Studio Fix in NW43, sorry. I'm gonna try to just press that into my skin to kind of color correct my skin because my skin's very, very light now. And then we're gonna go in with our powder contour bronzer. And then I'm still use the cream blush. What was the point of this video? I guess my point was, if you find yourself kind of holding those very, very strict limiting preferences, I think it's important to examine why those are your preferences, what would happen or what would be the consequence of you, but what would be the consequences to you stepping outside of those preferences and dating outside of your typical preferences. I'm gonna go ahead and take off my do-rag now. I was saying, like, I think it's important for us to examine why we hold the certain preferences that we do and think for a second, like, if we were to step outside of those dating preferences, what would that mean for us? What's the threat or the consequence to stepping outside of those preferences? So for blush, I'm gonna take the Milk blush stick. I'm gonna try to kind of get it kind of creamy. It's in the color Work. That's hella pretty. Oh God, that's so pretty. Oh God, that's so pretty. I wish y'all could see what I'm seeing in person right now. That is just applying like a dream. It's not lifting up. It's not getting cakey. That's mad pretty. I'm using a dirty brush, but like the product it's applying. That's mad pretty. I think just like my main point is just like to kind of examine the reasons why we hold certain preferences against certain types of people or for certain types of people, because it's always rooted in some deeper meaning. That's definitely something that I've come to terms with and that I've come to accept, that our preferences are always rooted in some deeper meaning, and we really do not have as much control over our own dating preferences as we think that we do. I don't even know if I want to put on eyelashes, you guys. My mascara just looks so good lately. Like, my mascara just it's doing it for me. I use the Stila Huge mascara and I use the Essence Princess mascara in the volumizing formula. I just put on the ColourPop Just a Tint lip crayon in the color Cherry Pickin'. But yeah, that's the whole look, you guys. Oh my God, that came out really nice. That came out really nice in my camera. That looks really nice in my phone camera. In person, I'm a little light. In person, I look a little bit light-skinned. I think I might spray my face down, or I might go in with a little more powder. But I'm like really happy with how this looks. If you guys enjoyed today's video, subscribe, like, leave a comment. Have you guys ever had these weird type of epiphanies on like gender constructs and like gender roles within relationships, and like how confining that can be for you? Like, have you guys ever experienced that? If you have, let me know. Let me know what you think. Okay,